And now, behind the mic at KXEX, this is the Autry Show. No retreat.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
What the hell's going on out here? Everybody grabbing out there. Nobody.
That the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Today, I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth.
I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
So, 5 seconds left in the game. Do you believe in miracles? Yes! Unbelievable.
Free at last! Free at last! Thank God Almighty! We are free at
Show on the best talk in town. Talk Radio 1550 KXEX. Call Alan now. 559-899-1550.
Hey, y'all, welcome to Alan Autry, No Retreat. I'm Alan Autry, so honored and humbled to have you with us on this beautiful, beautiful day in Fresno, Clovis, Central Valley. Had a little rain yesterday, cleared this air up a little bit, and it's just, my goodness, you can look out there, you can see the mountains, you can see the still snow-capped mountains here. And did you know, folks, that in Fresno and Clovis, we live closer to a beautiful mountain range, the Sierras, than Denver is to their beautiful mountains, the Rocky Mountains. Kind of interesting. People don't, a lot of people don't know that. But Fresno, great place to live. That's why we live here. I've lived in other places, love them. LA's like a second home. Lived Georgia, Atlanta, but you look for a place to raise a family in a community that really cares about each other. It's hard to beat good old Fresno, Clovis, and all of these surrounding towns here in the Central Valley. All right, a lot to talk about here today. We're going to start off with the shooting, subway shooting in New York, a long way from us, completely different culture than here in the Central Valley, but close to me because our son lives there, and our son takes the subway. He's an aspiring actor there in New York, been there for almost 4 years now. And on that very train, the N train from Brooklyn to Manhattan, he has a few roommates, and they have a little apartment over there in the Manhattan, and they all are doing the thing in New York City. But excuse me, when something like this happens, my goodness, it definitely gets everyone's attention. There's nothing more devastating, more horrifying and frightening than random violence. Any violence is bad, but you see people that have a grudge against somebody. Excuse me again, dadgummit. It's getting better. This cough is getting better, so bear with me. It's a few days ago, my goodness, I shouldn't even been on the air and making you guys listen to this stuff. But it's, even though it's bad, gang members on gang members, you have mafia-style hits on people that encroached on somebody else's business. And again, that's horrible when you have violence occur, no doubt about it. But it's the random stuff that can traumatize individuals. It can traumatize a community. And it doesn't take too many of these kind of instances, like what just happened in New York this morning, to traumatize an entire city. And when it happens anywhere, but in New York, that's, the big eye, big focus on New York. But these kind of instances are happening in smaller towns around the country. The senseless, random violence, we all feel it. And we all think, well, when is our number up? When are we going to have our random violence occur in our community? But here's what we know now, and we're going to have the same political reactions as we always have. But first, let me give you a little update if you haven't been following it. We have 10 people shot. Thank God it looks like none of the wounds are life-threatening, although on 5 of these wounded people, riders of the subway, they are critical but stable condition, and it looks like they're all going to recover. And we can thank the good Lord above, because we just had a press conference. They just had a press conference, rather, in New York, and they said it looks like the guy's gun jammed. So he was just going to keep shooting. The description we have is a heavy-set black male, put on a gas. This is kind of how it transpired from the first reports, that the train was on its way from Brooklyn to Manhattan. The N train is what it's called. It was pulling into the 36th Street station, a route that our son takes all the time. And thank goodness he called us this morning and said he wasn't on there. And thank goodness for that. And obviously, as a parent out there, you can identify with us. So it pulled into the station. By eyewitness reports, this guy was on the train, put on a gas mask, set off a smoke bomb, and then started pulling the trigger. Obviously, there's a all-out manhunt now for this individual. He has not been caught, but they have found a U-Haul trailer that they've connected to this individual. So I don't think it's going to be too long before they find him, because he obviously had to get that U-Haul from someplace. You have to provide some kind of identification. So that's if it's true, and it turns out that is the case, that this U-Haul is connected to the assailant, then we could have a resolution of this and get this guy off the streets. But again, you're going to have the same political battle. Oh, it's guns, 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 guns. You don't take guns away from law-abiding citizens when you have a defund the police situation and leave the citizenry with no choice, no defense, if you will, from maniacs like this. It just people, they're not going to go for that. It's going to have to be imposed on them. And what these folks are talking about, and mostly on the woke far left, they're not talking about gun control. New York has some of the toughest gun control laws in the country, along with Los Angeles, well, the whole state of California. And it still hasn't stopped shootings. You have to crack down hard on crime. And you start with the little stuff. You don't have respect for the law and the little things, then the big things are going to keep occurring and in greater numbers. That's not a theory. They call it the broken window theory, but it's proven to be fact. It's not a theory anymore. Unfortunately, we have too much data on that to show that that's true. Mayor, you got to hand it to Mayor Giuliani there in New York, whether you agree with Giuliani or not. People hate him, some people love him, some people in the middle. I don't care if you despise the guy that's seeing his black hair dye dripping down his face made you sick. It doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is, there's no debating that he cleaned up New York. New York was a city out of control when he took over. And in a very short period of time, he brought law and order to that city. And you saw the most dramatic drop in crime in the history of any city. In fact, New York became, New York became the safest city per capita in the country. And how he started that is by embracing the broken window theory, which is this: you have to respect the law. There's no amount of breaking of the law is going to be acceptable. One of the biggest things that were going on there in New York at the time, the so-called little crime, was jumping the turnstile at the subways and getting on the subway free. Well, he started cracking down on that. If you jumped the rail, you went to jail. He started cracking down on these little street muggings, purse snatchers and this and that, and giving them some significant time in jail. The legal system, the DAs, they were all working together, the judges, and they were all together on, hey, we got to get tough on crime. And I know you're saying, well, Alan, this guy's crazy. Listen, we don't know what the mental state is. It's obviously unbalanced, but he just mean as a junkyard dog. That happens. But I will tell you this. It is proven that all kinds of crime, grudge crimes, crimes of passion where it turns violent, random violence, as this seems to be, goes down dramatically when you are tough on crime. It's a phenomenon. The gunslingers get the message. If they know they're more likely than not to get caught and be put away, and if they open up on a policeman likely to get killed, or by a citizenry, an armed citizenry, you have a lot of people that think about doing things like this, but they don't do it. Because what happens, that innate instinct we have in us called self-preservation and the yearn for freedom is at play in most everyone, including hardened criminals or people that are unbalanced. And it's irrefutable. You have to get tough on crime, and when you get tough on crime, all crime, and you send a clear message that no crime is acceptable. No crime. You look at, and I hate to draw this parallel, but I think it's indicative. It's a reflection of where we've gone in this country. We have a guy at the Oscars that thinks he can walk up to somebody, rear back, and slap the living daylights out of him. And he said, well, Alan, it was just a slap. Let me tell you, a half an inch up, and he hits Chris Rock's eardrum. That guy's got a blown out eardrum. He misses a finger, goes in an eye, he loses an eye. That wasn't a little patty cake slap. And you're saying, well, gosh, you go from the subway shooter to Will Smith. Listen, this soft on violent crime attitude that this country has embraced, the leadership in this country has embraced. The vast majority of the people don't want it. They're sick of it. They're ready to get tough on criminals, not tough on citizenry. You lock up criminals. You don't lock up law-abiding citizens. You don't mandate that people stay in their homes like prisoners like they're doing in China. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to play a video that you are just not going to believe. It is worse than any horror film you have ever seen. It is astonishing. You may have seen it, heard it. It was on last night. But it's just, I'm still sick to my stomach. My wife is just horribly moved by it. But it is a simple solution. But simple doesn't mean easy. Because somewhere along the line, the leaders of too many of these cities adopted the philosophy that we should put criminals first, not law-abiding citizens first. If you change that mindset and put law-abiding citizens first and the criminals second, all of these things make sense. The first thing you would do is say, what do we have to do to protect our citizenry? And don't call it, well, it's just a little low-level crime. That's why we're letting them out early. Your grandma gets her purse snatched and gets slapped upside the head, and because she doesn't die, and God forbid she's not the right color, and they classify that a low-level crime? That's why these leaders are running like scalded dogs from this defund the police stuff. We knew what was going to happen. Any sane person knew what was going to happen. Let's defund the police. Let's let criminals, violent criminals, out before their time. Let's just empty the prisons. Let's go soft on sentencing. Let's have no cash bail, so when they are put in jail for hitting somebody in the head with a baseball bat or a frozen water bottle, you have the Vice President of the United States bailing them out. What kind of message do you think that sends? They may be mean and crazy, but they're not stupid, the criminal element. And some people, you say, well, let's work with them and give them second chance education. I did that, City of Fresno. I'm proud of it. I'm all up for giving somebody who truly wants to change their violent ways and are committed to being nonviolent and turning things around in their life. I'm all for giving that individual help. But here's the sad truth. And you've heard me say it a million times. You're probably sick of it. But they're saying that truth will set you free, but first it'll make you miserable. And the miserable truth is there's a criminal element out there, a certain percentage, I don't know what it is, but sure enough to traumatize a nation with their dastardly deeds like what happened on this subway. They don't want a second chance at education. They don't want addiction counseling. They don't want mental health treatment. They want to commit crime. That's what they want to do. And there's really no rehabilitating that. So we got to stop living in this fantasy world. It's a really dark elements in this world. And it's up to people to have the courage. If you're going to run for office, you better do a self-inventory. Do you have the guts and the courage to protect the law-abiding people of the area that you're representing, whether it be a city councilman, a mayor, state representative, the president of the United States? Because it's got to end. We hopefully this is a wake-up call. 10 people shot. Looks like nobody's going to die. But these 10 people are wounded psychologically for life. There'll be some comeback. I'm not going to pass judgment on the toughness of those. New Yorkers are tough. But you don't just put this behind you. This is going to reverberate in their lives and everybody in New York. And here we're talking about it here because it could be our community next to experience this. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, oh gosh, I feel like the old mosquito and nudist colony. Where do I begin? We've got so many things to talk about here, but we have to get to this China story. Then we'll get also the latest developments over in the Ukraine, and also something that probably could be seismic, ground shaking in Oklahoma in terms of the abortion issue. This is Alan Autry, No Retreat. We'll be right back.
It was the dark of the moon on the 6th of June in a Kenworth pulling logs. Cab over Pete with a reefer on and a
Get old Jeremy in there riding that horse. Got him a good horse. You got a good old cowboy behind him. Well, let's take him to Missouri, Matt. We got a show to run. Oh, I got it now. Oh, I got to tell folks that. We are back on YouTube. My life was just ruined that we were off of YouTube. I didn't know what to do with myself. All sad, sulking. My wife would say, "What's wrong, Alan?" Yeah. Banned from YouTube. And I'd try to go to the gym and work out. I'm usually a jovial guy at the gym. Alan, what's wrong? Banned from YouTube. Been horrible. Been horrible. They know the angst, the misery they cause. Oh, I got to wait and tell the radio folks about this. We're back on YouTube, though. And I've got a message for YouTube when we come back, but I want to share it with radio folks. And then we'll get into China. China. Do we have those clips of the apartment high-rises? You're not going to believe this. If you haven't seen Facebook, Autry's Army, it is really one of those frightening, sickening. I've seen a lot in my day. And we've seen a lot of horrific clips. This one will send chills up your spine. You're thinking you're watching some horror movie produced by Hollywood. But no, it's produced in living color by the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party. I need a good dad joke. I'll bring one in tomorrow. Oh. Did you get your workout in, folks? Autry's Army, I'm sorry. I have a cough button here for the radio. Social media, I don't have. So it's getting better. But have you got your workout in? You know, I told you I was going to stay on you. I love you. Mind, body, and spirit. Go out and start with taking a walk. If you can't go to a gym right now, go into your cupboard, get you some canned corn or whatever. The good things. I had 10 seconds. Oh, God, I was in the middle of it. All right, we'll talk about that. Workout.
listening to the Alan Autry Show on the best talk in town. Talk Radio 1550 KXEX.
And welcome back to Alan Autry No Retreat. We'll be following the subway situation there in Fresno. Assailant still at large, but I got a feeling they're going to get the guy pretty soon. But I see a couple of final comments for this segment. And I'm watching the monitors up here. If we get something breaking, I'll let you know. But you see the governor of New York, Kathy Hochul, giving her statement, said she's tired of hearing about crime in the headlines. Okay? Then get tough on crime. Dear Governor, Madam Governor, it's simple. You and this guy Adams, who's really starting to let me down, a former cop who knows what needs to be done, but suddenly gets in office and folds like a dollar store broom when the special interests come at him, the woke far left. Now he wants to be touchy-feely Eric Adams and piecemeal this thing. You've got a template out there. Use the Giuliani model. Change it to some other name. If you are so shallow and you think so less of the people that you're protecting in New York, change the freaking name. I'm sure Rudy would allow you to do it. Call it the Joe James, or call it a transgender name. I don't care. But you get tough on crime. The broken window strategy works. And you will see a dramatic drop in crime. Do you understand, folks, in New York City, there is a 68% increase in crime already in 2022 than 2021. 2021, it was through the roof. I'm not going to throw all these statistics at you, but it's through the roof. And these aren't little crimes. This isn't, jumping the subway turnstile, which should be absolutely, you start there. I mean, these are major crimes. So, I see these statements, and being a mayor, I know it's tough because you're going to make enemies. You're going to be marked off about 50 to 70% of the party lists. The people who help put you in office that think they can control you and they find out that they can't, they're going to come out and try to take you down. But you knew that when you signed up for this, hopefully, as a governor. And Eric Adams, I'm speaking mostly to Eric Adams. Come on, man, as Joe would say. You know what to do. That is the biggest tragedy of all. Have strength. Do what has to be done. Sooner or later, it's going to have to happen. And the longer you let this go, the more difficult it is to going to get it under control. And then you have a situation where you do have to, the individual rights of individuals start getting, in the mix. Because then you have a situation that you didn't have to deal with if you would have dealt with it earlier. Okay. All right. Let's, China. Y'all heard of Shanghai, China. We hear a lot about Beijing, China, because that's what the seat of government is. Big city. They got cities that dwarf our largest city. I think New York's 8 million people. Beijing's like 20 million, I believe. Well, Shanghai, I believe, is the biggest. 25 million people in that city. I mean, they've got people on top of people. These sky-rise apartment buildings. And they've had a instance of COVID occur in Shanghai. And they have adopted, the Communist Party in China, a zero COVID policy, which is ridiculous because you're never going to have zero COVID from now till the big sheriff in the sky comes and takes us all home. The ones that believe in him, takes them home. It's an impossible target. So you're scratching your head going, why in the world would they do such a thing? Then you dig a little deeper and you find out that Shanghai probably has more freedom-loving people that express that love of freedom. Not like by our standards here in America, like you express yourself on the show and not get canceled, albeit YouTube, and we got some information on that we'll share in a moment. But they're a city and a people that are much different than Beijing. And the Beijing leadership, Xi Jinping, is very concerned about this. He is concerned about people thinking on their own. As a member of the Communist Chinese Party, that's a basic tenet. You do not think on your own. You think the way the government wants you to think. And you do what the government says to do, no questions asked. And they have instituted this shutdown in Shanghai under the premise that it is a COVID measure. But it's much more than that. I think, my gut feeling, and Xi Jinping has said as much, he's going to come down hard on these people that are influenced by the West. He sees the West as decadent. And anytime he sees a region, a city, individuals that seem to be drifting towards any kind of Western value, he's going to come down on it. Well, Shanghai is, in his estimation, he's spoken about it, starting to do that collectively as a city. So I believe that this whole shutdown thing under COVID is to show the people of Shanghai who's really in charge. And we're going to show you there's going to be a price to be paid, you democracy loving people, that you don't live in Fresno, California. You live in communist China. We got to give you a little wake-up call on this. And you saw the spokesman yesterday for China say something very telling. He said, we are very well organized. We have great organizational capacity to impose and enforce this shutdown. And you see people being rounded up off the streets, their dogs and cats being killed because they're being shoved into apartments and into these camps, these COVID camps, which looks like a bigger than a super Walmart, just open area with little cots there where they're shipping people. And this is taking place. It is in full speed. And this guy said that the organizational things, the capabilities are, and he's kind of touting it, bragging about it actually, their ability to know where people are, know everything about that individual, go find them, round them up, if you will, either make them stay in their apartments or go to one of these COVID camps. And that's why this so-called social credit score that that Justin Trudeau loves and these other leaders around the world are starting to really be envious of. The Chinese model, if you will. A little bit of free market, a little bit of democracy, but a big old heavy right and left hand that can come down on the populace when they get out of line. That makes governing people easy. Governing democracies where people can speak their mind is hard. And these people don't want to work that hard. Xi Jinping does not want to work that hard. And that's the danger of, you see this big showdown between giving your personal information here and there, being able to track us as Americans where we go, giving the government, giving big tech, who's in bed with these kind of far left woke leaders, dictators here in our own country, all this information about us. Because trust me, sooner or later, if we don't stop it, we don't refuse to participate in this, say, no, you're not getting that information. I don't know. I don't want you to know where I am at on 6 o'clock at night on Tuesday when I'm out with my family having dinner or at a park. I don't want you to know that's where I am, government. You have no right to know where I am and spying on me and following me. That should send chills up the spine of every freedom-loving American, because that's the next step. They're talking about it now, having this ID card. It starts with a mandate card. Then you add this information. Then next thing you know, you wake up, you've got a social credit card, just a social, now I've got a credit card, so social whatever, social credit report. It's the equivalent of a credit report. It shows how you've been. They have it right now in China, as I said. And on that, if your social credit score isn't high enough, you can't get on a plane. If it's not high enough, you can't buy groceries. I mean, it's that bad. So people, okay. Well, in Shanghai, they have done something that they didn't do in Beijing, and as far as I know, any other place around China. They pushed back. They've pushed back. You had this one individual who said, I'm starving. He's out there with a bullhorn, ready to take the firing squad, ready to be hung, whatever the consequences that Xi Jinping had for him. He was obviously ready to take, because anything was better than starving to death. They're under these draconian laws that they have. But I'm going to play this clip on radio. You'll only hear it. You've got to go on online and Google it and find this. There's that word again. This is just absolutely frightening. You on social media can be able to see this. I hope we have the volume up high enough. What you're going to see is these sky-rise apartment complexes in China that the people have been locked into. And if your social credit score isn't high enough, if it's low, it gets locked from the outside. In the prior lockup, there was many, many instances where people starved to death, where the doors were welded shut, and people died in there during this first COVID lockdown. So here's Shanghai and the people. I want you to hear this. What you're going to hear is wailing and screaming of, it sounds like thousands of people in these sky-rise apartment complexes. Go ahead, fellas. Let's play this thing.
麻烦了。根治上面呢，因为所有的人，你都不晓得这个状态到底维持到啥个辰光。我总要把个标准，或者是讲有一个具体的说法。没，侬讲看，闷了7天，当然屋里向啊，不能出门啊。 不是说不能出小区啊，这不行的，马上弄下就要出事情。要差事体了。
My God, you know, I don't want to go to hell. You know, I believe I'm saved by our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Don't want any part of hell. That's as close as I want to get to hearing and seeing hell. I don't know if I'll ever get that out of my mind. I don't know if I should, and I don't know if you should either. This is just an astonishing, horrific, gut-wrenching, nauseating. This is what the communist system is all about. I've railed on this communist thing in the warnings on this show from day one about this country getting closer and closer to China. And you got John Cena, LeBron James making excuses for China, saying, well, they're misunderstood. You need to know more about them before you come out like this against them. You got John Donahoe, CEO of Nike, saying, I'm of China, for China, and in China's corner. They should be forced to listen and watch that for about 6 months straight. This is what communism, a godless, murderous regime and system, is all about. Joseph Stalin murdered millions of his own people. Mao Zedong, the predecessor to the Communist China leadership, 45 million people murdered. They don't bat an eye. Let's play. We got Justin Trudeau's soundbite. And these, you think that leaders aren't looking at this? Like I said, well, Alan, nobody would support that. Well, if you support Communist China and how they do things, this is how they do things. You want to cherry pick? Well, it doesn't take long before you've picked all the cherries and you're left with stuff like this. Now, here's Justin Trudeau expressing his admiration for Xi Jinping and the communist system. Go ahead and play that.
There's a level of admiration I actually have for China, because their basic dictatorship is allowing them to actually turn their economy around on a dime and say, we need to go green as fast as we need to start, investing in solar. I mean, there is a flexibility that I know Stephen Harper must dream about, of having a dictatorship that he could do everything he wanted, that I find quite interesting.
Trudeau's rivals. Okay. Man, isn't that funny? That's hilarious. Justin Trudeau, the leader of Canada, expressing your admiration for that system that does that, what we just saw and heard to the people. Oh man, that's funny. I haven't had seen something that funny since the Ukraine invasion. That's these people really believe what they're saying. That came out of Justin Trudeau's mouth. And if you see the way he handled the trucker uprising, you see him incrementally moving towards that dictatorship. He suspended pretty much all laws of the land that were on the books and took them upon him. He became basically a dictator during that time. And it looks like loving every second of it. And people tell me, Alan, well, it's a long way from a system like in Canada or here, giving our information to the government and being locked up into an apartment and not being able to get out and wailing like we just saw. That would never happen in the United States. Boy, those are some of the most dangerous words that you could ever utter. That is, it would never happen here. Not only can it happen here, I believe we're taking step by step towards that kind of system. And it's up to this generation now, the people who are on the planet now, the United States now, say no, we've had enough. And I think in the election that's coming up in November, we're going to see a great awakening, not the Chinese Communist Party type of great awakening, greatly. But I think we're going to see a move back, the individual liberties, the foundation that this country was based upon. It's also encouraging that over in France, which was for the longest time the biggest communist stronghold in the free world, starting to awaken. This Marie Le Pen, I believe her name, is running neck and neck with Emmanuel Macron, a left-leaning individual, open borders, the social credit system, all huge government controlling every aspect of your life. And the French people, it looks like, have pretty much had enough of that as well. And that's encouraging. So we're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, oh my goodness, what am I going to? Well, I'll just we're back. We're back on YouTube. So we come back. I have a few words about that. This is Alan Autry, No Retreat.
20 seconds.
All righty. Back on there in 20 seconds, folks.
You're listening to the Alan Autry Show on the best talk in town. Talk Radio 1550 KXEX.
And welcome back to Alan Autry No Retreat, heading towards the 12 noon hour here in Fresno, California on the West Coast in the beautiful San Joaquin Valley. And we got Jeremy in there with Jose, and Jeremy just doing a great job in there in the saddle here in the control room, keeping this old man on the air, and that's not an easy job. We're going to talk about the return to YouTube of the Alan Autry Show. No Retreat. I'm just so thrilled. Just left a void, a hole in my life that we got banished from YouTube. Still don't know why. But a couple of newsworthy items, and we will talk about a couple of these in more detail tomorrow with Larry Powell and Guillermo Moreno. Wednesday, I always look forward to Wednesday. Always look forward to every day. But inflation, if you saw the inflation report, up 8.5%. The largest in over 50 years. Everything is more expensive. But it's not inflation, really. It's Putin's price hike. Didn't know that, did you? We didn't have any inflation before Putin invaded Ukraine. That's why people get mad. That's why, what you don't want to do is make an electorate angry. They may disagree with your policies, but don't treat them like they're freaking fools. Like the song, "What kind of fool do you think I am?" You come in and you see Jen Psaki repeating the talking point, saying Putin's price hike like 15 times in like 3 sentences, as if I can brainwash these idiots out there into thinking that it's Putin's responsible for all the inflation that's out there and take zero responsibility, just like they did with Trump. Trump brought a lot on himself, too. Trump was the scapegoat. Everything's Trump's fault. No accountability. And now everything's Putin's fault. And believe me, he's earned a lot of that too, but not the inflation deal. It is anyway, we'll talk more about that tomorrow. It's 8.5%. And you wonder who's advising, this president. I mean, there's got to be somebody in the room that goes, well, let's call it Putin's price hike. Got kind of a ring to it. Whoever said that. One of these guys, women out of Harvard that never worked a day in their life, that they got PhDs. All it stands for is pile higher and deeper. They have theoretical on everything. But yeah, that's got to, Putin's price hike comes off the tongue very well. Yeah, these idiots out there, these sheep will really buy that. I mean, where's Susan Rice, who's supposed to be his advisor going, oh, wait, hold on here. Hold on. The populace may not be as learned as we are. They may not have as many cum laude, wadada degrees, but they're really not dumb. And don't go out and do that because it's going to hurt our cause. You'd have to think somebody with influence would be there to stop this before it got to Jen Psaki. But they didn't. And I think they're going to face an even worse fate in November in terms of loss of seats in the House and the Senate. But we also, Biden's handling of the economy, the new statistics are out. Also, we're going to talk more about this. Oklahoma passed an abortion ban that pretty much bans abortion at any stage, which sets the stage for a Supreme Court battle on Roe versus Wade. And I think that's probably what Kevin Stitt, the governor, and the people of Sacramento, Oklahoma, sorry, did Sacramento too much as a mayor. The people of Oklahoma, the leaders and the people there, probably want it. They want to get this before the Supreme Court. Okay, we got Laura on the line. Who's she gave me a great email the other day. Said she had my back on YouTube, but we're back on YouTube. And Laura, are you there? You got a little info? Laura, you there?
Hello.
Hey,
I'm here.
What you got on the YouTube? The legal complaint, you said? I see the note up there.
Yes, I filed a legal complaint.
Well, bless your heart.
Because okay, here's the thing. I'm a subscriber to YouTube, the premium service. And I actually talked to you on that particular episode. So it was just within my legal right to file a legal complaint against YouTube and against Google.
And they can't get anything past you.
Parent company. And what I requested, that I submitted this legal complaint, according to paragraph 13 on page 9, section 4, part B, where I wanted to know in writing exactly why, what was said. I wanted the words that were chosen by the algorithm to determine that this was misinformation, pornographic, or violated the terms of YouTube's user agreement in any way, shape, or form. I wanted the timestamp and the exact verbiage used. So they sent me back the timestamp and said that there was something said about the 2020 election. Okay. All he said was that he thought there was something not right about the election. That's what Guillermo said. That was it. He didn't say I know for a fact and lay anything out. So I contacted the guest. I escalated it. You have a right to escalate it.
Oh, you go escalate, girl. Go ahead.
So I chose 109 different videos that violated YouTube's community standards that were all currently on YouTube. And I wanted them to explain to me how it was possible for these 109 videos to remain up for more than 1 year with no suspension, no removal, or anything else. And these were egregious violations of community standards. However, your show did not violate that. And that if they could not give me an adequate explanation, that I would have my attorney contact them. And guess what? You were on YouTube today, and they sent me a message that just basically said they apologize for the inconvenience and the disruption in my viewing.
Did they really? They sent an
live stream programming.
They sent
Mrs. Fisher, you are a valued customer, and we accept.
Oh my goodness!
Encourage and accept all critiques, complaints, and.
Boy, Autry's army will not be pushed around. Autry's army will not be wrongly canceled or silenced.
Well, I sent you that email on Saturday that I filed the complaint.
Yeah.
I didn't know if it would do anything or make a difference, but I'm like,
oh, Laura. Well, I tell you, you've got so many better things to do with your time. But I sure appreciate you doing that. And my goodness, that's. And
I'll do it again.
Yeah,
I'll do it again.
Oh my goodness, the old saying, Laura. I know Autry's army out there and others that listen. It's said so often that it kind of loses its power if you don't remind ourselves that it's so true. And that's this phrase: "If it can happen to me or you, it can happen to anyone." And if they get away with it, but if they reach out there and they try to do something like this, and like you, God bless you, like I said, you got a lot better things to do than watching my back on this show, but I appreciate it. But they reach out there and they do something like this and they get their hand bit a little bit, they recoil, and that's what America's got to do. They're saying
everybody has to do this. Every single person. I don't care if it's speech you hate. People can stand up and say things that you don't like. And you know what? I will fight like the third monkey on the ramp in Noah's Ark to defend that speech. Because the second I don't, there's not going to be anybody to defend mine.
Exactly. And as I'm sitting here thinking about it, it's almost like the free speech equivalent of the broken window theory in crime. If you let the little crimes go, there becomes a lack of respect for crime.
Yep.
And it escalates into violent crime. You got to crack down on all crime. Same thing when you get silenced or you get canceled. A little guy like me, a little guy in a little station in Fresno, California, gets canceled, silent, wrongly disciplined, if you will, whatever. We've got to fight back against that. We can't say, well, it's just a little station and some washed up actor on a radio show. Yeah, it's no big deal. You got to say no, like you're saying. No, we're going to stand up against that. And if you stand up on the little so-called little violations of free speech with little people, then that can prevent some of the bigger tramplings of free speech that can happen out there. So
that's already what, because we've all sat around and let them say, no, you can't do that, no, you can't say that, and that's why these big social media platforms get away with it. Because they've gotten away with it for so long. And people are afraid to stand up. I'm sorry, but I am a firm believer. I told everybody on social media, if you want to send me a message, if you have any questions about anything, An informed public is a public that politicians fear.
Mm-hmm.
So the more you know and the more you speak out, the more afraid of you they're going to be.
And isn't it amazing that where you would think would be a concentration of good, consequential knowledge and the power, like the big corporations that own all these radio stations and TV networks, the big corporations, that YouTube and people on the woke far left can come after somebody like me, like if I was working for Westwood or whatever, working for another, and the corporation buckles, they give in, they throw you under the bus, for exercising your right of free speech. Yet a little independent station like this, they're not going to silence the owner of this station. I know the folks involved, and they value free speech, as you said, even if it doesn't align with their own values. You can't. Now they have values. You got to come over and cuss on the air. I get all that. You censor that, but political ideology, if you don't want to listen to it, you turn the station.
Thank you.
And it's just amazing that people who have all the power, the ones that are being the most courageous, are these smaller businesses that says, no, I'm not going to throw him. I didn't get thrown under the bus. And I'm convinced if I would have been with a bigger organization, I've worked for big corporations. I've been called in the office and said, you need to issue an apology. Go watch the John Cena tape. Get a few tips from LeBron James, and go in, do a mea culpa, fall on your sword, tell him you're sorry, and then we'll be okay. And I never got that at all here. All I got was support going, that's what you believe? You go ahead and say it, guy. And I couldn't be more.
And I'll tell you right now, I will file another legal complaint and another one. And I'll keep on filing them because, no, I'm sorry, that's not right.
That's not right. Well, I appreciate you, Laura. We're running out. We got 30 seconds to go. Thank you so much for doing what you do. You're amazing. And the final thing to YouTube, look, YouTube, I'm not going to demonize you. You did what you thought you had to do. It was wrong. I forgive you, but I'm not going to shut up. I'm not going to start, doing your talking points. I'm going to be me, and we'll just see where that goes. God bless y'all. God bless America. Good Lord willing, creek don't rise. We're going to get a chance to do it again tomorrow on Wednesday. I love y'all. Bye-bye now.
Till then, who cares about the clouds?